When a SAR member experiences a critical incident, our usual coping mechanisms can become overwhelmed. This is because we are filled with chemicals and hormones, and we must return to a healthy balance, homeostasis. This usually happens over time. As a SAR member, you would likely find it helpful to know there are many things to help speed this transition up.
I think it's vital that every search and rescue member knows that critical incident stress is very common among all of us, and it's a normal reaction to an abnormal SAR call.
There are a number of things that SAR members can do post-task to help speed up their recovery and return to their baseline. Expect and plan for it. Critical incident stress is an occupational reality for SAR members. Think about, does your group have a pre-plan for dealing with difficult calls? What is your internal culture around mental health issues? When are you going to initiate critical incident stress management interventions? And how are you going to deal with critical incident stress? Plan for critical incident stress management interventions. This is like psychological first aid, and the aim is to help reduce and mitigate the impacts of critical incident stress reactions. Know that you can initiate one-to-one support or group support, and that any member can call.
It's also important for the search and rescue member to talk to their spouse, partner, family member, close significant other, or someone who's going to be your support network so that after a tough SAR call, they know how to support you. It's also valuable for them to know who they should call if you need further supports. Having that conversation before a tough SAR call will be really valuable because after the SAR call, you might just need support and not have the wherewithal to be able to have that conversation. And after a tough SAR call, you might need to clear your schedule or take a day off work in order to get back to your baseline.
Drinking water immediately after a call helps to flush the stress hormones from your system. Remember, we're mostly made of water, and under times of stress, we can become dehydrated.
A great idea after a tough SAR call is to get some vigorous physical exercise. The physical exertion of a tough SAR call might leave us a little tired afterward, but all those chemicals that are in our system to energize us need to be flushed out. Both water and vigorous large muscle group exercise will help with that. For that vigorous activity, if you can get left-right brain activity going, like for example going jogging, that will be even more beneficial. While getting vigorous physical activity is important, you can add an extra layer of benefit by doing it outside in a forested area. One common element in Indigenous communities is being out on the land and the healing value that that brings to a person. The Japanese also have an expression called forest bathing or shinrin-yoku, where you go out and intensely absorb the environment around you. Being in a forested environment and vigorously exercising at the same time can help us get back to baseline much faster.
Ensure that you're getting a good night's sleep. Sleep is one of the things that is impacted the most following a critical incident. And yet sleep is so important in terms of our brain's ability to process and file information properly.
I like to use the analogy of our memories being a building with many floors, with many rooms, with many filing cabinets, with many drawers, with many files. That new experience that you've had on a SAR call, is it similar to a previous experience that you've had where we can go to that old file and file it adjacent to it? Or is it something where we need to make a new file or have a new drawer or a new cabinet or perhaps even a new room? Search and rescue will expose you to many things that you've maybe never ever done in your regular life prior to joining your SAR group. Your brain, trying to make sense of that new experience, needs to file those activities. So after a tough SAR call or a new SAR experience, it may take a few days during sleep for you to be able to process and file that.
Return to routine, even if it's a push to do it. Routines help create safety and help us return to our normal as soon as possible. Try and refrain from heavy foods, fats, sugar, caffeine, and alcohol. Remember that we are trying to help our body reset. Practice mindfulness, meditation, and breathing exercises. We don't have a lot of control over our autonomic nervous system, but we do have some control over our breath, which can help regulate our nervous system in times of stress. We also have influence over our thoughts, which can be really powerful. Engaging in mindfulness and meditation can go a long way in helping to reduce our stress levels. There are many apps and tools out there that can help train your brain to use these approaches. I will share a couple examples of things that can be helpful, one of which is called box breathing, and the other is a grounding exercise. With box breathing, you want to start with empty lungs, and you want to inhale through your nose to the count of 4. Hold for 4, and you want to exhale through your mouth to the count of 6. Hold for 4, and then inhale through your nose for 4. For the grounding exercise, what you're going to want to do is engage your 5 senses. You can do this anywhere you are, and nobody really has to even know that you're doing it. So what you're going to do is you're going to find 5 things in the room that you can see, 4 things that you can touch, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste.
As a human being, it's really important for us to connect as well, both in our daily routine, but especially after a tough SAR call. So finding somebody that you can trust, that will listen to you effectively, that will support you in the ways that you need, and will be confidential, is really valuable after a tough SAR call. It's also important for us to watch for things that change. So for example, if your regular routine is to have a glass of wine before you go to bed, maintaining that routine is completely fine. However, after a tough SAR call, it might be tempting to change that routine. If you're finding yourself instead of 1 glass of wine needing 4 or 5, that change might be a concern. It's important before the tough SAR call to have that conversation with that support network around you so that they will be able to observe any of those changes and support you in the best way that you need.
Building resilience for those tough call-outs is the foundation for every SAR member. It's like adding equipment to your pack. It is vital to remember that critical incident stress is a common normal reaction to the calls that we face as search and rescue members. You, as a search and rescue volunteer, are BC Search and Rescue's most valuable asset. And taking care of yourself is vitally important. If you're struggling at any time, you or your family members can call 1-800-663-3456. Take care of yourselves.